Your bank account can freeze the second you die, and most families don't find out until they're standing at the teller window, funeral bill in hand, being told they can't touch a single dollar. Not next week. Not after probate clears. Right now, today, this could already be true for your account, and you would have no idea until it's too late for you to fix it, and too late for the people you love to do anything but panic. Stay with me for the next few minutes because I'm going to show you exactly which accounts freeze, which ones don't, and the one simple, completely free thing you can do this week that changes everything for the people you leave behind. If you've ever thought, I'll deal with this later, this video is your warning that later might not come in time. And before we go further, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because we cover real financial protection topics like this every single week. And you don't want to miss the ones that could save your family thousands of dollars and weeks of stress. Let's start with what actually happens the moment a bank finds out someone has passed away. It doesn't matter how much money was in the account. It doesn't matter if the family desperately needs it for a funeral home, for rent, for the mortgage that's due in 5 days. The second the bank gets that death certificate, or even just a phone call, or sometimes just a notice in the newspaper, that account can be frozen instantly. Debit cards stop working, checks bounce, automatic payments fail. And here's the part nobody warns you about. This isn't a rare glitch or bad luck. This is standard banking procedure in the United States, written into policy, followed every single day, in every single state. Why does this happen? Because legally, once a person dies, their money doesn't automatically belong to anyone else. It becomes part of what's called their estate. And an estate has to go through a legal process called probate before anyone can touch it, unless very specific paperwork was already in place before death. Probate is not fast. Depending on the state and how busy the courts are, it can take anywhere from a few months to over a year. Imagine telling a grieving widow she has to wait 14 months to access her own household's checking account just to pay the electric bill. This happens more often than you think, and it's completely legal. Now here's where it gets personal and where I want you to really pay attention, because this next part could apply to your own bank account right now, today, without you even realizing it. Not every account freezes the same way. It depends entirely on how the account is set up. If you have a joint account, meaning 2 names are on it, like a husband and wife, most of the time that account does not freeze completely because the surviving person is still a legal owner of the funds. They may face some temporary bank scrutiny. Some banks briefly restrict it while they update records, but generally the survivor keeps access. This is one of the safest structures a family can have. But if the account is in just one person's name, a single owner, no joint holder, that account freezes the moment the bank learns of the death, and it stays frozen until the estate goes through probate, unless one very specific, very simple form was filled out in advance. That form is called a Payable-on-Death designation, often shortened to POD, or for some other accounts, a Transfer on Death designation, shortened to TOD. And here's the beautiful part. This form is free. It usually takes 10 minutes at your bank, sometimes even less if you do it online through your bank's website or app. It requires no lawyer, no court, no fees. Let me explain exactly what a POD or TOD does, because once you understand this, you'll understand why it's honestly one of the most underused pieces of financial protection in the country. When you fill out this form, you are simply naming a person, or sometimes more than one person, who will automatically receive the money in that account the moment you pass away. Not eventually, not after months of court paperwork. Immediately, often within days, sometimes even within 24 to 48 hours, once the bank receives a copy of the death certificate along with that person's identification. The money skips probate entirely. It goes straight from the account to the beneficiary, exactly the way you intended, without a judge, without a probate attorney, without months of frozen limbo. Think about how different that is from what we talked about earlier. Without this form, a single owner account can sit frozen for months, while a family struggles to pay basic bills. With this form, that same account can be accessible to a loved one within days. Same bank, same amount of money, same family. The only difference is one small form that took 10 minutes to fill out, sometime before the emergency ever happened. I want to pause here and ask you honestly, do you know right now whether your own bank accounts have a beneficiary listed on them? Most people don't. Most people assume that because they have a will, everything is automatically covered. But a will has to go through probate too, and a will does not override what's called a beneficiary designation on a bank account. In fact, in almost every state, a POD or TOD designation legally overrides whatever your will says for that specific account. That means even a very carefully written, expensive will, prepared by a lawyer, can be completely bypassed for a bank account if there's a beneficiary form on file. This surprises a lot of people, but it's true, and it's exactly why financial planners consider this one of the very first things every adult should check, no matter their age, no matter how much or how little money is in the account. Let's talk about who this really affects, because I don't want you thinking this is only a concern for older folks nearing the end of life. This affects young married couples who haven't gotten around to adding each other formally to every account. It affects single parents who want to make sure their kids or a sibling or trusted friend can access money quickly for funeral costs and daily expenses. It affects small business owners whose business checking account could freeze and stop payroll for employees who depend on that paycheck. It affects elderly parents who assume their adult children are automatically covered, when in reality, without this form, those children may be locked out for a year or more while legal fees quietly eat away at what's left in the estate. And here's a detail that a lot of people don't realize. Even life insurance policies, retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs, and investment accounts typically already require you to name a beneficiary when you first open them. Banks are actually behind on this. Checking and savings accounts often don't prompt you the same way, so people open a basic checking account decades ago, never think about it again, and have no idea there's no beneficiary attached at all. Now let's talk about how you actually check this and fix it, because I promised you this is simple, and I meant it. First, call your bank or log into your online banking and ask directly, does my account have a payable-on-death or transfer-on-death beneficiary listed? Many banks let you see this information right in your account settings online under something like beneficiaries or account services. If there's nothing listed, ask for the POD or TOD form. Some banks let you complete this entirely online in a few clicks. Others may ask you to visit a branch just once, bring your ID, and sign a short form. Either way, there is no fee. There is no lawyer required. There is no waiting period. Once it's filed, it's active, and you can update it anytime your life changes, like a marriage, a divorce, or the birth of a child. I also want to mention something important for jointly held accounts, because people sometimes assume joint automatically means completely safe in every situation. If both people on a joint account pass away, say a married couple in an accident, without a listed beneficiary, that account can still end up frozen and pushed into probate, because there's no longer a surviving owner and no beneficiary named to receive it directly. This is why financial experts recommend adding a POD or TOD designation, even on joint accounts, as a backup layer of protection just in case. Let's slow down for a moment and talk about the human side of this, because behind every one of these frozen accounts is a real family going through the worst days of their life. Imagine losing a spouse suddenly and in the middle of planning a funeral, making calls to family members, trying to hold yourself together enough to function. You're also told that the joint bills you shared can't be paid because half the money you thought was accessible is now seated behind a legal wall. Rent is due. The mortgage doesn't pause for grief. Utility companies don't wait for probate court to reopen. Groceries still cost money. This is why this topic matters so much, and why so many financial advisors quietly say, this is one of the most overlooked pieces of basic protection that costs nothing, yet saves families from devastating stress at the worst possible time. There's another layer here worth mentioning: retirement accounts and life insurance policies. If you already have those, when was the last time you actually checked who is listed as the beneficiary? People get divorced and forget to update it. People remarry and forget to update it. There are real documented cases where an ex-spouse from decades earlier still legally received a payout because nobody updated the paperwork after a life change. This is not about scaring you, it's about giving you the exact tool to prevent it. Review your beneficiaries at least once a year, especially after any big life event, a marriage, a divorce, a new child, a death in the family, or buying a new home. Now, some of you watching this might be thinking, this sounds like something only rich people need to worry about. That could not be further from the truth. This protects modest checking accounts with a few $100s just as much as it protects large ones. In fact, it may matter even more for smaller, tighter household budgets, where every single dollar accessible right away makes the difference between paying rent on time or facing a late fee, or worse, an eviction notice, while waiting for probate. Here's something else worth knowing. Even if you do end up going through probate because a form wasn't filed in time, there are often ways to request limited emergency access to funds for funeral expenses through the probate court. But this requires a petition, sometimes a lawyer, and it still takes time you may not have. Compare that to a POD form that takes 10 minutes and prevents the entire problem from ever starting. The difference in stress, cost, and time is enormous. I also want to gently remind you that this isn't just about you, it's about the people who love you. Filling out this form isn't really for your own benefit, since you obviously won't be the one dealing with the aftermath. It's one of the kindest, most protective things you can do for your spouse, your children, your parents, or whoever depends on you. It takes the guesswork away. It removes the legal battle. It removes the frozen weeks of waiting. It's one small piece of paper that says, clearly and legally, here's exactly who should have this money right away, no questions asked. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. Today, or at the latest this week, check every single bank account you own. Ask specifically about payable-on-death or transfer-on-death designations. If they're missing, fill them out. It's free. It's fast. It could be the single most important 10 minutes you spend on your own financial planning this entire year. And if you're watching this with a parent, a spouse, or an adult child in mind, send them this video right now. Don't wait, because none of us know exactly how much time we have. And the whole point of this video is making sure the people we love are protected no matter what happens. Before you go, I need you to do 3 quick things. First, drop a comment below telling me whether your accounts already have a beneficiary listed or whether this video just made you realize you need to check today. I read every single comment, and I want to know how many of you are taking action right now. Second, share this video with at least one person in your life who needs to hear this. A parent, a partner, a sibling, anyone whose finances you care about. This kind of information saves families real money and real heartache, and sharing it might be the thing that protects someone you love. And third, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because we're breaking down more overlooked financial protections just like this one. Every single week, the kind of practical information banks and lawyers assume you already know, but most people never get told until it's too late. Thanks for watching. Take care of your paperwork, take care of your family, and I'll see you in the next one.